Welcome to the Villa Pride Down Under podcast, an Aston Villa supporters podcast brought to you from Australia. Now, usually I'm joined by lads in each corner of Australia, but Tess and Ryan are off doing the right thing, probably getting me in trouble for not taking my one for Valentine's dinner, but the lads are doing the right thing. She can wait till next year. Now she got a wedding in November. So I'm joined by great friend of the pod, Mr. Paddy Kelly from the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. Paddy, thanks you so much for jumping on short notice. I really, really appreciate it, mate.
You're more than welcome, pal. So what else would I be doing on a rainy lunch break on a Friday afternoon?
That's it, mate. That's it. Paddy, I know you're on a bit of a tight schedule, so I don't want to overuse your time. So I'm going to jump straight into it, and we're just going to look ahead to tomorrow's game. And like, it's kind of the run of a good run. Spurs last week was a kind of run of a big run of home fixtures for us together, and obviously after a lot has happened in January, and there's been big changes in the team. What are you expecting tomorrow? Now that we're getting back into the league, and we know what we have kind of going forward, no barring injuries, obviously, but.
Yeah, well, I suppose injuries are the big thing. We've obviously got to sort out the centre half positions. I'm expecting to see Desazi come in and start straight away, obviously in the absence of Konza. I'm not expecting to see Matty Cash rush back, so I'm expecting to see Garcia, and I'm also expecting Boubacar Kamara to start at left centre back. So the one thing we can't answer is whether he plays Matson or Digne in that left position. But my money's on Digne. But that's the troublesome one, and that's the one we can probably answer ourselves in what can be done. To what he does up top, it's going to be really, really interesting. And I think there's a lot of eyes to see will one of the new signings make a start in attack. You can be sure that Malin will be in there somewhere. But will we see Asensio, and will we see Rashford, or will we see both?
Yeah, it's very interesting because obviously Liverpool is coming up during the week. So as you said there yourself, I think Garcia goes in there, and I've no problem with that. I thought he was very good against Spurs. So he actually really impressed me. There was a lot to like about his performance, considering it was the first time he's ever played in a top level game in any Europe top flight league. Very impressive. He looks like he has a lot to bring, and obviously Emery's going to shape him, and probably not playing him as quickly as he'd like to, but that's maybe not necessarily a bad thing, because usually Emery likes to bed him in, so maybe it is a good thing that he's getting to throw him in there straight away. Up top, would you expect Malin to start ahead of Watkins tomorrow? Like, considering the Liverpool games coming up during the week, I'd be kind of thinking, will Watkins kind of come on later and start the Liverpool game?
Well, we're obviously a little bit short of the squad update. We'll probably have it in an hour or two. But I'm not expecting to see Ollie Watkins tomorrow, for the simple reason is that I expect us to win without Ollie Watkins, and I expect us to try and have him in the starting 11 for the two games during the week, because they're absolutely huge games and could potentially shape where we finish the end of the season. But having said that, if we don't win tomorrow, then the games during the week become even tougher. So we got to focus on one thing at a time. And I know we did our own podcast last night, and I spent the whole time looking forward to Chelsea and Liverpool during the week. So it's while they're like two rainbows overhanging tomorrow, that we're looking forward to them. I'm hoping the players don't take their eye off the ball, go and get a decent win tomorrow, and hopefully for the first time this season, put a team away. We haven't put anybody away this season. It's important that we start getting a couple of goals and start looking really, really comfortable. Obviously last week we conceded very late, and then we had a nervy few minutes till the game finished. But until then, it never looked like we were in danger of losing the game. But with cup ties, anything is possible. So tomorrow, I'd like to see us score a few goals first and foremost. A clean sheet would be a bonus, but the most important thing is, and no matter how ugly it is that we get a win tomorrow.
Absolutely. It's kind of like, it was interesting because after the game against Spurs in Emery's post-match press conference, he mentioned this is our new way. And you kind of just so many ways you can look at that and like wonder what he meant from that. Is that he can finally start going back to the way we played last year, that quick football, or does it just mean that he just stating because we have new players? Because I think the way we played football at the start of the last season is very different to the way we played football at the start of this season. Obviously, we're containing with different, a lot more slow build up and I think that comes down to maybe he didn't quite have in the door who he wanted, and this was just his way of getting the best out of the players he had, or do you think that it just wasn't clicking for the team, and now that he has the speed back up front, and obviously Diaby would be a big loss in that.
Well, Diaby is a big loss, but I personally think that the league this year has just been absolutely bonkers, and anybody that could beat somebody was stealing points, as we saw with Ipswich away from home. We switched off for a couple of minutes, and Diego Carlos backed off Liam Delap, and it cost us the 3 points. And there's a few games like that. The Forest game springs to mind, the United game, the 0-0 games that we probably should have won that we left behind us. All teams are doing that, and that's why it's so tight at the top. But regards to what you're saying about last season's performance versus this season, I actually don't think there's much of a difference in our build-up play. It's just when we hit the final third, we have now become a victim of our success, and teams are lining up that little bit differently against us. They're choking us in that final third. They're blocking down that triangle from the 6-yard box, or from the 18-yard box to the edge of the centre circle, and they're trying not to let us into there, and that's ultimately what's costing us big time, because we commit bodies forward in an attempt to break that down, and we've been caught in the break so many times as well. So tomorrow, we just got to be patient. We got to keep with the process. They will try their best to absolutely choke us tomorrow, and we've just got to hope that we get that early goal to loosen up the strings a little bit, and hopefully we can add an extra one to that very early and take the pressure off as such, because they have been nervy watches. We've been very good against the good teams and very mediocre at times, and for that reason against the teams that we probably should be beating, like Wolves a few weeks ago.
Like, obviously I don't want to jinx us or anything, but I think Ipswich are kind of in a different kind of position, to where, not necessarily position, but mentality than they were the last time we played, and they seem to have lost a little bit of, I wouldn't say confidence, but that swagger they had where they could go up and match teams. And maybe Kieran McKenna has just kind of thought to himself, I need to just kind of get about the style of playing going at teams. Now I just need to kind of start to try and fight out a few points here and there, which is clever. It's what Burnley failed to do last season. He had a go where he could last. Do you expect kind of a different thing? Do you think Ipswich are just going to come and try and take a point? They were happy to have attack us where they could last year, in the return fixture. Do you think they'll approach the game differently now?
Yeah, well, it was very early in the season. I think it was the 28th or 29th of September we played them. They were a completely different beast at that stage. They were new, they were fresh. Nobody had worked them out per se.
Yeah.
And they could afford to go at us a bit more. At the moment, every point, especially away from home, is huge. I think they'll sit deep. As I tried to explain in the best layman's terms I could, is that triangle. If we can penetrate that triangle and get and that might take 60 minutes to do, because they're very solid in defensive midfield. If we can break that down, I think the defense can be got at. But we have to watch the break. We have to watch the likes of Leif Davis bombing down that left-hand side. They've got Enciso in there now as well, more than capable of punishing you. So we have to be careful and not do anything stupid as well. So while I expect to see plenty of attacking football, maybe this is the one to throw an Asensio or a Rashford in there, just for a little bit of magic dust, to see if we can get that early goal and take the pressure off.
Yeah, and of course we have someone returning tomorrow who might have want to prove a little point to Mr. Emery. So would you expect Philogene to start this game?
Oh, I would imagine so. Yeah, I would imagine this is the one he has highlighted in a claret highlighter on his wall planner since he moved. Yeah, and I'd say he's ramped up his training, and he's flying into tackles all week this week. And look, while he's a really good player, a great potential, we just couldn't fit him into our system. It didn't work for him. He had a couple of really, really good games, but ultimately was not going to fit into a Champions League team. So while I wish him all the best, I just hope that doesn't come tomorrow. But I am expecting him to start and give us a decent run.
I think with Philogene, I'll always have a little bit of respect for him. He could have stayed at Hull and guaranteed his football, but he wanted to come back and give it a go and prove a point. And I suppose, without going too deep into it. But I'm going to focus on going forward. I look back on him fondly, and I'll just always remember his performance against Bayern Munich, and that's it. That's all I kind of need to remember from that time, and it was a good deal for us. That's all we need there. So, but these players have a habit to come back and hurt us. It's something that's been etched in me for a long time as a Villa fan. We've had a lot of returning players come back and have stormers against us, but it'll be good to see him get some game time and see how Ipswich decide to use him. Just with the team, Paddy, with Maatsen and Digne, would you expect Maatsen to start and Digne to be kind of kept back for the Liverpool game, or?
Well, that's what's playing on my mind. At some stage, when you spend 40 million on a left back, at some stage you're going to have to start playing him. And he's probably been a victim of how good Luca Digne has been. Like, he's Absolutely. Arguably one of our best players this season and one of the first players on the team sheet. But he will need a rest from time to time. And tomorrow was probably ideal to give him a rest and put Maatsen in there. Because you'd have to expect that and if we took everyone off our bench from last week and started them tomorrow, that we should still be beating Ipswich. And I don't mean that in an arrogant type of way. That's just football. You know, we've now developed a squad that's more than capable of going and competing. And the key word in there is squad. So we have all these players that are well capable of stepping up. We've seen it in recent weeks, players stepping into positions that they aren't accustomed to. We're well able to put a team on the pitch capable of beating the best of the best. So why can't our reserves go and beat Ipswich? And I don't mean that in a derogatory way with reserves, because Ian Maatsen is obviously a really accomplished footballer. And I get the impression that he's one of the only ones that we've signed that he hasn't been in that luxury. I think he started with Pau Torres, leaving him out against Newcastle. I thought we were going to see Pau Torres eased into it last year, but the injuries that we've picked up in the meantime, like Garcia, I've no doubt that Garcia doesn't come anywhere near the team if Matty Cash is fit. Matty Cash picks up an injury, Garcia straight in there, no problem. Konza's injured, Disasi's going to be in there. That's just the way football goes. I believe that Unai Emery is a man that would prefer to be leaving players, slightly longer time to adjust. But Maatsen at 6 months in is surely worth the start at this stage.
Do you think, though, when Emery signed him, like, it was with the intention of him probably halfway through the season kind of taking the reins? But like, as you mentioned yourself there, Luca Digne, I'd say Luca Digne has probably surprised even Emery. I mean, I know he's surprised the fan base. I mean, like, look, we know over the years he's always been quality. He's always played at top teams, but he seems to be getting better for us, and that's probably a good show of his character, because we know he was in talks with Nice. He said that himself, and then Emery said the deal wasn't right and pulled it. And good job he did now, because, like, if Mourinho is just kind of it's not really worked for him anywhere. He's picking up little hamstring injuries even at Forest now, and we got what we needed out of Mourinho. To be honest, he kind of changed it that year. We were fighting to get in the conference, so a lot of respect for him. But to keep Digne we look obviously better defensively with Digne there, and I think it's a huge credit to him, because like, I think he was ready. He knew he was kind of ready for the door, so to be able to turn that around is a huge credit to him.
And in fairness to him, like, he's probably at the back end of his career age-wise, and I'm sure that's what was in Unai Emery's thinking when he spent what it was 37, I think, for Ian Maatsen. When he had that in his mind to spend that kind of money, it was because he was worried about Luca Digne's age. He was worried about the length of his contract. There had been some talks of him going to Saudi, and obviously, as you say, Nice as well. Like, he is definitely a fine wine. He's definitely got better with age, and he's definitely got better since we signed him. Not only in defence, but in attack, because he just gives the two completely different fullbacks. One is a very stable defender, great tackler, whereas the other one is a ball carrying box crasher, and doesn't have the same crossing ability as the other. So it's just completely different players. So I personally think it's going to be horses for courses when for the likes of Ipswich, to give that something different, that your fullback is actually getting into the box, taking a shot or squaring the ball. That's probably a game for Ian Maatsen. But if we can't break them down, if they're just really, really solid, then it's a game for Luca Digne to get into that position where he can put in those unbelievable crosses. But we have to get players into the box to get on the end of them crosses too, which is difficult.
We're going into this game, Paddy, with probably something that we've obviously had, but not too much of. We've had a good week's break
Yeah.
It's huge. It is huge. Like there's been a lot of cup games, there's been a lot of Champions League games, prep for Champions League games the weeks we weren't playing, like they were cramming a lot in. This has probably been the first period where we can actually sit back, and we probably had a full week. He probably gave them an old day or two off after Spurs, and then gave back full focused on the training pitch. What's the, like, for you, what's the benefit of that for the team going forward? Do you think it should have been like with the rhythm? Do you think it's going to help us?
Well, I can quietly tell you that there's only been one day off, and it wasn't even the day after Spurs. They came in for recovery. Right. They got Tuesday off, and they were back at it again. So while the intensity of the training probably wasn't what it usually is in the lead up to this, there would have been less on field work, I would imagine. But Unai Emery doesn't do days off unless it's absolutely necessary. So he would be more inclined to give him the day off before Liverpool and do the classroom work on that day. When you say a day off, it's just giving the body a rest. It's not a day off of sitting at home. It's a day of watching.
Off to Disneyland for the day.
Yeah, it's a day of watching videos and going through analysis for the day, and that's probably what will happen just before Liverpool. But it's a busy week ahead, and we need everybody at full tilt. So, it's going to be a difficult choice for him to make this team selection tomorrow. And I personally would not be I think the back four is the easy one. I would not like to be making the front four, as in the three behind whoever leads the line tomorrow, because I think that's really, really difficult now. And so glad to have those options in attack, because it's absolutely tremendous after the years of hurt and watching certain players come off the bench go, oh no, not him again. And here we are with just an unbelievable squad, and what an unbelievable addition to be adding to it in Asensio and Rashford and Malen during the transfer window.
And the interview with Ramsey and Rodgers after the Spurs game, I thought was very good, wasn't it? It was good to hear them speaking. Look, we people will say media trained or whatever, they're saying the right things, but I thought it was very mature for them the way they were talking, and you kind of get excited too, and it'd be interesting to see how they step up now. Obviously, I think Rodgers is probably the safer of the two, but Ramsey's been playing quite well. He's been improving, so it's hard to see how he can get dropped straight away. But then you're kind of thinking, well, Emery hasn't told Rashford that he needs to come in and fight for his place straight away. You don't get a player like that. So I know you don't really want to answer this, but I'm going to kind of push you a little bit, Paddy. If I gave you $100 right now to put it down, what would be your starting four tomorrow?
My starting front four tomorrow would be Malen up top. I would continue with Jacob Ramsey, because I believe when someone's in that peak of form, that he like I said it on our podcast last night, he's back to his effervescent self, albeit his shooting boots weren't on last week and he missed a couple of chances. That's fine. He's creating the chances. He's carrying the ball. He's getting himself into them positions. And I think it's the wrong move to take him out in this instance. So I would be saving the legs of Marcus Rashford and the legs of probably Asensio for the final 30 minutes tomorrow, to let them get more experience in the system and what have you. And I would start with Ramsey, Rodgers and Bailey tomorrow. Bailey, who also had his best game of the season last week as well. So it would be slightly unfair to take him out of there. You know as well as anybody, Mark, that I criticise Bailey on a weekly basis this season.
And rightly so at times. He has been nowhere near it this season, and so you haven't been unfair on him, Paddy.
No, well, look, I always try and pride myself on being as fair as I possibly can. So if somebody makes a U-turn and their form picks up again, I have no problem saying it. But when they give you ire on a Saturday, it needs to be said. And Leon Bailey has been nowhere near the levels he was last year. Whether that's missing the Abbey, I don't know. Whether it's someone like Malen or an Asensio that can get him back in the peak of his form. Because let's face it, Asensio may not be there next season, so we might need him in the peak of his form next season. But he's going to need one hell of a second half of the season to keep his place and to stay in the plans for next year.
Do you think, like, behind the scenes, like, I don't know how Emery approaches his man management style, but like obviously he had to deal with the Malin and Garcia incident. Malin seemed to be really involved in the team, celebrating every goal. Really, he seems to have taken the attitude really well. Garcia seems to have taken it well. So now, do you think, like, with his loan moves, like as you say, with the Ipswich and Liverpool games coming up, like, do you think it's an easy conversation for him to have with Rashford and Asensio and say, I didn't bring you for Ipswich, I brought you for Liverpool, I brought you for Champions League? Like, if he's going to leave him out tomorrow, from a manager's point of view, it's probably a bit of an easier conversation to have with like top level players like that, is that?
Yeah, well, I think the conversation tomorrow is a little bit easier than the conversation on Wednesday and next Saturday when we've got to play the likes of Liverpool and Chelsea. I think tomorrow, if he says to Rashford, look, sit this one out, get you on for the last 20 minutes, 25 minutes, do what you can in that 25 minutes, get yourself up to match fitness, and we might start you on Wednesday. No promises, but that's my way of thinking. That's how you deal with a player at that age. Ramsey and Rodgers are as you mentioned, they're at the prime age for brain development for footballers. So what you're seeing and listening to in interviews is what Unai Emery has given them to think about over the last few months. So it's quite obvious that they've been worked on. Their mentality has been worked on, and they seem to have the same strong, positive mentality. And it was a joy to listen to. And Rodgers actually did a Villa podcast during the week, while it was quite sanitized and they weren't asking the questions we probably would have liked to hear. He just speaks very well and speaks very positively. Speaking about his upbringing, playing for Baggies when he was younger, Villa not really been on his radar, and now what seems to be someone who's just fallen head over heels in love with the club. So delighted for him. Delighted to see young players doing so well, and we've got to nurture that. And I think that days like tomorrow, while Rodgers I don't think is in any danger of losing a spot, Ramsey I think will come in and out throughout the rest of the season. But tomorrow is not the day for that. Let him have it while he's buzzing and flying. And you know what? That could be the same on Wednesday. If he has a really good day tomorrow, he could probably play again on Wednesday. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing that I got from the interview with the two of them was that they realize that they're part of a cog. They're not the superstars of the team. They're part of a system. And I think Rodgers covered that really well in the other interview he did with the Villa podcast when they asked him about his position. He's like, I never played this position, but in this system, I think 10 is my best. And that's obviously something that Emery has changed him into. Paddy, I know you're on your lunch break, so I don't want to be keeping you too long. I'm not going to ask you to give a prediction, as it wouldn't be fair after not hearing the press conference and stuff. I just have one quick question for you before you go, Matt. Tyrone Mings. Do we know if he's anywhere close? Is he, like, where are we sitting with him and the injuries, obviously? Because the feeling I got in Emery's press conference, just in your own opinion, I thought 10 days ago he was close. Like the way Emery talked. And
well, I think with an injury and the injuries he's sustained previously, you got to be careful with him. And I don't think tomorrow is the one to rush him back into. If he is fit, if he is ready to go, we might see him on the bench tomorrow. But I wouldn't be starting him. I would go with Kamara in that centre half position, and let him be ready for Wednesday or next Saturday, when we could do with Kamara in the middle of the park. So that's my opinion on Tyrone Mings. He is obviously a lot closer than Pau Torres, who we saw doing a lot of gym work during the week, which obviously means he's very close to kicking a ball, judging by the movement and dynamic movement they had him doing. So it'll be an interesting week, I think. But I definitely think we see Mings in the next two games as opposed to the one tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's kind of, if you were Emery, it's the Liverpool game, you'd be looking to get Kamara back into midfield. I think it's important that we have him back in midfield for that particular game, because Liverpool are very, very strong in the middle, and I think Kamara is needed in there.
And you want your best players playing in their position. That's rule number one in football. So while we've suffered with this in previous years, remember the days of Steve Bruce playing everybody out of position when he had fit and available players in that position, and it used to boggle our minds. So look, we're in a remarkable position, albeit those injuries at centre half are crippling us a little bit. Hopefully by Wednesday, or we should see Mings fully fit and ready to go. But for now, I think it'll have to be Kamara. And as I say, I want him in on Wednesday against Liverpool and in midfield, and again on Saturday, because that's where we could be hurt. by Liverpool and Chelsea. Tomorrow's a completely different game. It's about getting through it, getting 3 points, and I'll take it. I'll take an 89th minute John McGinn P roller to win the game at this stage. Anything at all, just get the 3 points. No injuries. Move on to the midweek, and let's see how we are by the end of next week. And it'll this week, I think, it is movement week within potentially movement week for us within this league. If we go and get positive results, we're going to be touching on top 4 by the end of the week.
And you've got Newcastle City playing each other, so there's going to be points dropped either way there. So it's a big opportunity to kind of close a gap for us coming into a busy period for all teams.
Absolutely.
We've had 125 people here on the podcast, which is really good, lads. I really appreciate you all logging in, because obviously we only scheduled it and decided to go for 15, 20 minutes before the start. So thanks very much to everybody that jumped in. Thanks to Tess in the comments there. Obviously, Tess is always... Tess, this is Tess podcast as well, and Tess couldn't make it tonight. As I said, he was out wooing the woman for dinner. So, Paddy...
He's not doing a very good job if he's in the comments.
Maybe she's asleep. Paddy, thanks a million for your time as always, man. I really, really appreciate it, and we're very, very grateful for all you do for this podcast. And obviously, Team Sheet Tantrum, I assume, going ahead tomorrow on your own podcast.
Yeah, we'll be on for Team Sheet Tantrum an hour and 15 minutes before kickoff. So what's that? 1:15? Quarter to two.
Fantastic.
Quarter to UK time. I don't know what that is where you are, but it'd be late at night.
Yeah, well, the game is at 11 o'clock, so it'll be 9:45 in Australia on Paddy's channel. But I'm sure there wouldn't be too many people in this that haven't heard of Paddy's podcast now. They're listening to this one. Guys, obviously, just anyone that is new in this, if you could hit the like, subscribe for us on the YouTube and X, we really, really appreciate that and help the podcast growing. It's growing away lovely recently. And of course, myself, Ryan and Tess will be back Sunday for another live podcast at some point. That will be scheduled soon, so we'll let you know in the comments, and then obviously you can join Paddy and Neil on their podcast for a post-match after the Ipswich game, pretty much straight after it. So Paddy, thanks a million again, mate, and we will chat to you again soon. Up the Villa.
You're more than welcome. Up the Villa.